What is Sanxingdui? In China's Sichuan Basin, near the city of Guanghan, lies a Bronze Age site that shouldn't exist as we imagined it. Sanxingdui, a culture so distinct that its art looks almost extraterrestrial, protruding eyes, vast auricular ears, angular faces, and towering bronze trees hung with creatures and symbols. Discovered in the 1920s and revealed to the world through major finds in the 1980s and again in recent years, Sanxingdui is associated with the ancient Shu civilization. Its sacrificial pits, numbered, catalogued, and meticulously excavated, held a treasury of bronzes, jades, elephant tusks, gold masks, and burned offerings. The site's scale and strangeness rewired our map of Chinese antiquity. In late September 2025, at the Sanxingdui Forum in Sichuan, multiple teams unveiled something new, evidence that the bronzes were painted, and not randomly. A pattern emerged, black where the face was alive, red where the sacred pattern sings. Before the paint, the metal already told a dramatic story. Sanxingdui, meaning 3 star mounds, was the capital of the ancient Shu kingdom for roughly 500 years, flourishing between approximately 1600 BC and 1100 BC, making it a contemporary, yet dramatically different peer to the well-documented Shang dynasty in China's Central Plains. The site itself is enormous, spanning an estimated 12 square kilometers, suggesting a complex centralized urban society, a metropolis of the Bronze Age in East Asia. The discovery of Sanxingdui fundamentally challenged the long-held theory that the Yellow River Basin was the singular cradle of Chinese civilization. Here, in the upper Yangtze River Basin, was proof of an entirely separate, highly sophisticated culture with a unique artistic identity and advanced technology. The sheer presence of this massive center in the south forced historians to acknowledge a pluralistic beginning for the Chinese state. What makes Sanxingdui's art so baffling is its departure from the known traditions of the time. While the Shang were casting ritual ding, cauldrons, and zun, wine vessels, covered in stylized animal motifs known as taodi, Sanxingdui was crafting colossal, near-life-sized human figures and monumental masks. These faces, with their distinctive exaggerated almond-shaped eyes, some protruding from the socket and massive ears, are unlike anything found in the Central Plains. This aesthetic uniqueness hinted at a distinct cosmology and belief system, a world operating on its own ritualistic rules. The very name of the city's legendary founder, the first Shu king, Can Kong, is traditionally described in later texts as having muzong, which is often translated as protruding eyes. The bronze masks, particularly the largest one measuring 1.38 meters wide, are seen by many as ritualistic representations or even ancestor figures of Can Kong himself. They are not portraits, but rather magnificent, commanding religious implements, used perhaps in ceremonies designed to mediate between the heavens and the earth. This civilization left no written records that have been deciphered. Their silence, combined with the bizarre nature of their artifacts, is what has fueled endless speculation, from alien influence, a theory that is of course unsupported by any evidence, to a completely self-contained, isolated cultural bubble. The truth, as the 2025 color findings reveal, is far more subtle and human, a complex coded system of ritual communication. The pigment puzzle, from patina to polychrome. Headlines were simple but seismic. New archaeological findings reveal colorful bronze wares dating 3,000 years. Researchers unveil Sanxingdui's color code: black for brows, eyes, hair, red for sacred grooves and petals. The message: this wasn't patina. It was paint and a system. Black appeared consistently where a face asserts identity: eyebrows, eyes, hairlines, and sometimes to mark special symbols. Red surfaced in the grooves of vessels on the petals of the bronze sacred trees, in textured details and clothing lines. The placement is so specific that archaeologists described it as a color code, a rule set that Sanxingdui artisans followed. At the Sanxingdui Forum 2022, the Sansaban 25 Insakun Pobem Mavendala Jushers, Lalab Baber, labs summarized techniques and early conclusions. Media amplified the pattern. The big picture: Sanxingdui's bronzes were never meant to be bare metal. They were polychrome, bronze as a substrate for living color. A technical masterpiece: bronze, gold, and cinnabar. How do you prove color on a 3,000-year-old bronze? You don't guess, you analyze. Teams use microscopic imaging to find residues. They apply X-ray fluorescence, XRF, to identify inorganic pigments or trace metals in black layers. SMM Straj, EDS. to study microstructure and adhesion. Sometimes they lift microns of surface and cross-section it, revealing layer stratigraphy, metal, corrosion, varnish, pigment. Each method is a small flashlight in the dark. Together, they draw a map. And when that map repeatedly paints black along eyebrows and eyes, and red in grooves, petals, sacred tree elements, you've crossed from happenstance to intent. That is what the 2025 updates communicated. Pattern, plus placement, plus repeatability. The 2025 research didn't just confirm the color, it began to identify the ingredients. The consistent black pigment is believed to be derived from carbon or possibly an iron-based compound bound using an organic medium like raw lacquer. Lacquer, a natural substance harvested from the lacquer tree, was a sophisticated, time-consuming technology in ancient China, known for its deep black luster and incredible durability as a protective and decorative layer. Using it as a binder speaks to the high ritual importance and intentionality of the coloring process. The powerful red pigment was identified as cinnabar, a naturally occurring mercury sulfide mineral. Cinnabar yields a brilliant vermilion and was highly prized across ancient China, often associated with immortality, ritual, and the life force. The use of cinnabar in Sanxingdui is itself a complex story of ancient trade and resource networks. Analysis suggests the cinnabar may have been sourced from the Shangyangzi mercury metallogenic area, possibly transported from river basins along the upper Yangtze, indicating a vast, well-organized system of resource acquisition by the Shu kingdom. The logistics required to acquire, process, and apply this mineral pigment on a massive scale on hundreds of artifacts underscores a centralized authority capable of organizing high-level craft and commerce. Furthermore, the bronzes themselves were not originally green. The patina, or corrosion layer, is a byproduct of burial. Technological analysis showed the original bronze alloy, a sophisticated mix of copper, tin, and lead, often presented with a bright, dazzling golden surface when freshly cast. The color code, therefore, was applied not to dull, dark metal, but to shimmering gold. Imagine the visual impact. A colossal, gold-surfaced mask with commanding black eyes and recessed red ritual markings. It would have been a breathtaking, awe-inspiring spectacle under the flickering light of ritual fires. The gallery in color. Decoding the artifacts. Let's walk the gallery of color. First, masks. Imagine a mask with bulging tube-like eyes, not glinting green, but edged in black, the brows defined, the hairline crisp. The black is not random, it's a reminder. This is a face. A being. Next, the sacred trees. These towering bronzes carry petals, nodes, birds, perhaps mythic animals. In 2025, teams noted red pigment precisely where petals open and along grooved motifs, places designed to catch light and signal meaning. Finally, bronze vessels. In the offsets and carved channels, red sinks in and glows. A color in the recesses, a whisper in the details. If gold leaf shouted status, red seems to speak ritual. The bronze sacred trees are the structural wonders of Sanxingdui, with the tallest reconstructed example reaching nearly 4 meters, 13 feet in height. They are not merely sculptures, they are believed to be cosmic axes, mythological ladders connecting the 3 realms: the underworld, the human world, and the heavens. They are a physical manifestation of the Shu people's worldview. The 2025 findings confirmed that red cinnabar pigment was concentrated in the most ritually significant areas. On the petals of the stylized blossoms, on the grooves and nodes of the branching structure, and sometimes highlighting the sacred birds perched in the branches. If the tree represents the path between worlds, the red color acts as a sacred charge, a flow of auspicious power marking the channels of communication with the divine. It suggests that the act of climbing or ascending the cosmic axis was visually mapped in a way that viewers could instantly read. One detail: the sacred trees were created using the sophisticated piece mold casting technology, which was shared with the central planes, but the assembly and form are utterly unique to Shu. The fact that the pigment was applied as a final layer, after the complex casting and assembly of multiple sections, proves the color was the final word of the artisans, the ultimate completion of the object's ritual function. The Sanxingdui masks and human heads are a gallery of faces from another world. Many of the heads feature 3 ear holes in each earlobe, suggesting a local custom of wearing elaborate ear ornaments, or perhaps a symbolic trait of a deity or high priest. Crucially, at least 6 of the bronze heads were originally covered in thin sheets of gold foil, affixed to the face, giving them a radiant divine glow. The black lacquer-based pigment found on the eyebrows, eyes, and hairlines of these figures is a cultural constant for defining the zone of identity and consciousness. Eyes, especially the startling, protruding eyes of the largest mask, are the window to the soul, and black serve to intensify their gaze, making them unnervingly present. This is not mere decoration, it is sacred makeup. The red pigment, while often in grooves, also appears on the lips, nostrils, and ear holes of some figures. Early interpretations by scholars suggested this vermilion was not just paint, but a ritual offering for the head to taste, smell, and hear. By applying cinnabar to the sensory organs, the ritual object was symbolically awakened or animated, given the power to communicate and participate in the ceremony. The code is therefore a script of animation. The ancient shu, rituals and endings. Across ancient cultures, black and red are power colors. In China's long story painted lacquer, cinnabar burials, ink that defines the living line, black frames identity, red marks life force, sacredness, auspiciousness. At Sanxingdui, the placement reinforces this. Black around eyes, brows, hair might mark personhood, a face awakened. Red in grooves, petals, patterned paths reads as charge a current of sacred energy. We can't force modern symbolism onto the past. But the code's consistency hints at rules the artisans shared. Not just paint it pretty, but paint it correctly according to meanings everyone in that world understood. Sanxingdui appears obsessed with scale and presence, eyes that jut, ears that flare, hands that hold offerings. Add hidden color, and you don't just have objects, you have actors on a stage of the ancestors. The code was likely not for museums, it was for ritual. The ultimate mystery of Sanxingdui lies in the sacrificial pits themselves. The vast majority of the spectacular bronzes, jades, and ivories were deliberately broken, smashed, and burned before being ritually buried and covered with a thick layer of ash. The gold foil was peeled off and crumpled, the elephant tusks were stacked. This was not a natural disaster, it was a calculated, large-scale act of cultural closure. The question is why? One theory suggests an internal shift in religious or political power, a new ruling class or new spiritual belief system that required the total termination of the previous dynasty's sacred objects. Another theory posits an external event, such as an attack or a massive environmental catastrophe, like a devastating flood of the Minjiang River, that forced the entire civilization to abandon the capital. In this interpretation, the breaking and burning were a desperate final, protective ritual to send their most powerful deities and treasures into the earth before fleeing. The pits dating spanning a period of time, perhaps a century apart, suggests multiple ritual closures, not a single spontaneous event. The latest pits date toward the end of the Shang dynasty, the same period when the rival Zhou culture was rising in the Central Plains. The fact that the objects were placed in pits, sealed with fire, and covered with earth is what allowed the micro traces of pigment to survive, sealed away from the elements. New timeline for Chinese art. At the Sanxingdui Forum in late September 2025, curators and scientists emphasized two things: the international attention the site commands and the multidisciplinary approach: materials science, conservation, and public presentation. The color code language captured headlines because it's not just lab data, it's a key to how Sanxingdui looked and felt in its time. Museums will likely reconstruct colors in future displays, changing how millions see these objects. Sanxingdui already forced scholars to admit China's Bronze Age was plural, not singular. The 2025 pigment findings add a new dimension. Polychromy was integral to ritual bronzes, not an afterthought. The discovery of painted bronze artifacts in such quantity and with such ancient, exquisite craftsmanship pushes back the timeline for the emergence of painted bronze wares in China by nearly a millennium. Previously, it was believed that painting on metal was a practice that emerged much later in Chinese history. Sanxingdui proves that high-level codified polychromy existed at the very dawn of the Bronze Age in the Yangtze River region. The lesson is global. Our ancient bronze-green aesthetic is often a modern illusion. In many civilizations, color completed the object, and at Sanxingdui, color appears to be coded a compositional grammar. Every time we peel back corrosion and find a rule, the ancient world becomes less primitive and more intentional. What pigments exactly? Organic binders or mineral bases? Did black derive from carbon-iron compounds? Was red cinnabar, ochre? Can we map the full code across hundreds of objects, Future seasons will refine answers, exhibitions will evolve, and Sanxingdui's story will keep expanding. But the heart of it is clear. They painted identity, and they painted power, in black and red. The ongoing Sanxingdui excavation, which intensified in the 2020s, continues to yield astonishing finds from the newer sacrificial pits. These discoveries are not just more artifacts, but new layers of the Shu cultural tapestry, including more evidence of gold and jade, ritual silk, and textiles, and the now familiar coated bronzes. Each new piece of data reinforces the notion that Sanxingdui was not merely connected to the Central Plains, but was a major node in an ancient inter-regional network of materials, technologies, and possibly shared religious concepts. The bronze alloys were locally sourced, the cinnabar was imported, the jade objects show correlations with the distant Liangzhu culture, and the gold mask is currently the largest and heaviest of its kind, known from the Shang and Zhou dynasties. The Sanxingdui color code is a crucial step in translating the visual language of a lost world. It transforms objects we thought were static monuments into dynamic, performative entities that glowed with symbolic life in their own time. It is a whisper from 3,000 years ago, finally heard. We thought we knew Sanxingdui because we'd seen the metal, but the color was always there, waiting under time's skin. Do you think black and red at Sanxingdui marked identity and sacred charge, or something else entirely? Drop your theory in the comments. If you love deep dives into lost civilizations and fresh archaeology, subscribe to Golden Civilizations. The past is brighter than we thought, sometimes literally.